My coffee mug just shattered. It slipped right from my fingers and hit the kitchen tiles with a crack. The screen of my phone, still in my other hand, glowed. It was a picture. It was my daughter, Emily, in a beautiful ivory-colored dress, smiling, arm in arm with that man, Michael. Emily, did you get married? Yes, Mom, we did. On Friday. On the other end of the line, I could hear traffic, the sound of a city street, laughter, everything but joy in her voice. Why didn't you tell me? Why wasn't I invited? It was just a tiny thing, Mom. Only family. That word, it just hammered against my ribs. Family. I picked up the broken pieces of my mug, staring at that perfect smile on the screen, and I understood. Maybe I had just become a footnote, someone just outside the picture. I deleted the photo, and in the quiet that followed, a question formed that I still don't have an answer for. What does a mother do when she stops being family? If you want to hear the rest of this story, please follow my channel. I'm here every day with a new story, and I'd be so grateful for your company. My name is Margaret Bishop, and for 68 years I truly believed that family was the only thing that mattered. I raised my daughter Emily all by myself after my husband Robert passed away. I worked mornings at the Duchess Bakery in Charlotte and spent my nights sewing for two different families, the Barclays and the Sinclairs, to pay for her college education. I saved every single penny so she could one day have the wedding she always dreamed of. I always pictured myself standing right next to her, zipping up the dress, holding her bouquet, watching her live the biggest dream a woman can have. But last Thursday, as I was sipping my morning tea and scrolling on my phone, I saw a picture on Facebook that just stopped my world. There was Emily in a lace dress, next to her new husband, Michael Vance. The only other people in the photo were his parents, Richard and Barbara Vance. My eyes just scanned that picture over and over. Emily looked happy, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. And the caption said, "Our perfect day. Family is everything. Family is everything. Without me." There was no phone call, no invitation, not even a little hint. I found out my only daughter got married the same way a stranger reads the news online. My heart broke in a way it didn't even break when Robert died. Sitting there in my little kitchen in Charlotte, my tea mug shaking, I realized that to Emily, I might not be her mother anymore, but just some inconvenient piece of her past. I called her 4 times that day. Every single one went right to voicemail. I sent her messages, pretending I hadn't seen a thing, just asking if she was okay, if she needed me. The reply didn't come until late that night. Just a text. "I'm good, Mom. We'll talk later. We'll talk later." As if her own wedding was just some small talk we could put off. That night, lying in bed staring at the dark ceiling, I realized I had spent my whole life being a mother to someone who didn't need me anymore. And in that awful, quiet morning, a new Margaret began to wake up inside me. Over the next few days, the memories just washed over me. I remembered when Emily was 6 and got that terrible flu, almost pneumonia. I worked all day at the bakery in Myers Park and sewed all night for the Sinclair family in Ballantyne. For 2 weeks, I don't think I slept more than 3 hours a night, taking her temperature, driving her to the doctor, buying that expensive medicine. When she finally got better, she wrapped her little arms around my neck and said, "Mommy, when I grow up and get married, you're going to be the most beautiful maid of honor in the whole world." Those words. They lived in my heart for more than 20 years. I also remembered her sweet 16 party. I had saved for 2 whole years to give her a celebration she'd never forget. I sold a pair of earrings Robert had given me. I worked extra shifts on the weekends. I cut back on everything for myself. We rented the little hall at the community center. I bought her the prettiest dress we could find. I hired a local DJ. I cooked all her favorite foods myself. That day, Emily told me I was the best mother in the world, that she would never, ever forget what I did for her. The other parents commented on how much love was in that room. I thought about all the daily sacrifices. The mornings I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to get the first batch of bread in at the bakery, so I could be home when she got back from school. The afternoons I spent helping her with math homework, even though I barely finished high school myself. The nights I'd wait up, worrying, until I heard her key in the door when she was out with her friends. The Sundays I'd drive us to Charleston to see Aunt Ginny, just so Emily would know her father's side of the family. When she went to college to study business, I took on even more work. I worked the bakery Monday to Friday, and on weekends I started doing alteration services for a bridal shop. I just wanted her to focus on her books, not on money. Every time my back ached from standing or my fingers were raw from the needles, I thought about the wonderful future Emily would have because of her education. During those college years, she started to change, just in little ways. She didn't come right home after class. She had study groups, projects, internships. On weekends, she went out with friends to places I'd never heard of. When I asked about her day, the answers got shorter. "It was fine, Mom. I'll tell you later." But later never seemed to come. It was her senior year of college when she met Michael Vance. The first time she talked about him, I saw a new kind of light in her eyes. She talked about him all the time, how smart he was, from such a good family, how he was going to be so successful. I was happy for her, of course, but I also felt this little pinch of something. It was like Michael represented a world I didn't belong to, a future where there wouldn't be room for a mother who worked in a bakery. The first time Michael came over for dinner, I made my special baked ziti, garlic bread, a big salad, and my famous apple pie. I tried so hard. I wanted him to like me. Michael was polite, yes, but I saw his eyes scanning our little apartment, that look I couldn't quite place. Emily seemed anxious, always explaining things, as if she was embarrassed by how we lived. "Your apartment is very cozy, Mrs. Bishop," Michael said when he left. But the way he said it made me feel like he meant the opposite. That night, Emily told me I had been too much, asking so many questions about his family, his job. "Mom, not everyone is like us, telling their whole life story right away." That was the first time I felt like I was a problem she had to manage. After that, Michael's visits were fewer. When he did come, it was all very formal. Emily started spending all her time with him, coming home later and later. Those Sunday drives to Charleston stopped completely. "Michael and I have plans" became the new excuse for everything. When Emily graduated, I was so proud I cried through the whole ceremony. She had done it, something I never could. She was going to have a life I only dreamed of. After we went to a fancy restaurant, Michael had invited his parents, Richard and Barbara Vance. It was the first time I met them. Richard was some kind of executive. Barbara had been a lawyer before she retired to play golf. They talked about trips to Europe, wine tasting, Broadway shows. I tried to join in, but I felt so out of place. When I mentioned I worked at the Duchess Bakery, there was this pause. Just a quiet little silence that Emily quickly filled by changing the subject. That night, when we got home, Emily said something that cut me deep. "Mom, I know you're just being friendly, but sometimes you say things that, well, Michael's parents are very refined people." Refined. That word. I wasn't refined. My love, my hard work, my sacrifice. None of it mattered next to money and a fancy education. The months after that were just more distance. Emily got a job at a big bank. Michael did too. They started talking about getting an apartment together. I supported it, even though my heart was breaking. "Young people need their space," I said, trying to sound happy. When they finally moved into a fancy new building uptown, I was still allowed to visit, but only with an appointment. "Mom, you should really call first, just to make sure we're not busy," Emily told me. The simple joy of just stopping by to see my daughter was gone. I had to schedule time with her, like a dentist. The visits got further apart, every week, then every 2 weeks, then once a month. When I did go, the talk was all about their jobs, their friends, their plans. I'd listen, but they almost never asked about me. It was like my only job was to be Emily's mother, and nothing else. During the holidays last year, I noticed Emily and Michael were spending all their time with the Vances. "Well, Michael's parents just have these lovely traditions," Emily explained, when I asked if they'd come for Christmas Eve dinner like always. "But next year we'll make time. Promise." Next year. It was in March when Emily told me she and Michael were thinking about getting married. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," I said, my heart jumping with joy and nerves. I immediately started planning. The church, the dress, the food. "Have you set a date? How can I help?" "Mom, we want something really simple," Emily said, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "Nothing big. Weddings are so complicated. I nodded, even though I was so disappointed. I had dreamed for years of planning this with her. The months went by, and any talk of the wedding was vague. When I'd ask for details, it was always the same answer. "We're still figuring it out, Mom. I'll let you know." I started to feel like something was wrong, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. In May, I saw Emily posting more pictures online. Photos with Michael, with the Vances, at fancy dinners, on weekend trips. But when I saw her, she'd tell me almost nothing about it. It was like she had two different lives. One she lived, and one she told me about. It was early June when I knew something was happening. Emily canceled our Thursday dinner 3 times in a row. Always work or a last-minute thing. When we finally did meet for a quick coffee, she seemed nervous, distracted. I asked her straight out, "Is everything okay with Michael?" "Everything's perfect, Mom," she said, looking at her phone. "We're just so busy with work and other things." Other things. Those words just echoed in my head. What other things could be more important than your mother? The last time I spoke to Emily before I found out, was on a Sunday. I called to confirm our Thursday dinner for that week. "I can't, Mom," she said. "I have a huge work deadline. It's just impossible." That was strange. Thursday nights had been our night ever since she was a little girl. It was the one night I always took off from sewing. "What about Friday?" I asked. "I don't know, Mom. Let me check. I'll call you back." She never called back. And me, like always, I just waited by the phone for a call that never came. It was that Thursday morning, the exact day I should have been getting ready for our dinner, that I sat in my kitchen with my tea. I opened Facebook to see pictures of my friends' grandchildren, and I saw it, the image that just ended my life as I knew it. There was Emily, more beautiful than I'd ever seen her, in a simple, elegant lace dress, smiling at Michael. In the background, I could see the happy faces of Richard and Barbara Vance, dressed perfectly, posing as the only family there. The photo description said, "Finally married. Thank you to our families for making this day perfect." Our families, plural. But I wasn't there. I wasn't in the picture. I wasn't in the comments. I wasn't part of the story of my own daughter's life. I read every single comment. College friends saying congratulations, co-workers sending best wishes, a few distant cousins expressing surprise. But not one comment asked where I was. It was as if I had never existed, as if those 28 years of sacrifice had just been erased. I spent the rest of that day in a daze. I checked my phone again and again, just hoping for a call, an explanation. Nothing. Emily just went on with her life, posting pictures from her honeymoon in Tuscany, thanking people for their good wishes, sharing this new, happy life that I was completely shut out of. That night, lying awake, I understood something that hurt more than I can say. My daughter hadn't forgotten to invite me. She had chosen to exclude me. She made a decision that I would not be part of the most important day of her life. And in that awful moment of clarity, I knew that my life, the one I had known, was over. But what Emily didn't know was that her mother, Margaret Bishop, had stored up more than just pain over all those years. She had also stored up a strength she didn't even know she had, a dignity that was sleeping but not dead, and a resolve that was about to change everything. The woman who got out of bed on Friday morning was not the same woman who had waited to be included. She was a woman who finally understood that some things can't be fixed, and that sometimes the greatest love a mother can show is respect for her own dignity. In that quiet pre-dawn hour in Charlotte, as the first bird started to sing, Margaret Bishop made the first decision that was 100% for herself in almost 30 years. If she was no longer welcome in Emily's life, then Emily would no longer be welcome in hers. But this story was just getting started, and what happened next would change all of our lives in ways none of us could have ever imagined. The next few days were just a fog. I couldn't see where my life was going. Emily didn't call to explain. She didn't come by. She just kept posting pictures from Italy, vineyards, fancy dinners, museums. Every new photo was just another little twist of the knife, confirming I wasn't part of her world. I tried to stay busy, cleaning the apartment, going to my little church, talking with Mrs. Eileen Rodriguez, my neighbor for 20 years. But no matter what I did, the pain was just there. a heavy weight in my chest that made it hard to breathe. It was while I was sorting through an old trunk of Robert's that the memories just came flooding back. I found Emily's birth certificate, her immunization records, her school report cards, all A's. I remembered every single sacrifice. The cold mornings I'd get up at 4 a.m. for the bakery to pay for Emily's ballet classes. The times I ate nothing but toast for dinner so she could have chicken. The Christmas gifts I'd save up for all year long. I remembered when she came home crying from middle school because her friends had designer jeans. And I went to the consignment shop the very next day and bought her the pair she wanted, even though it meant I'd be late on the electric bill that month. For all those years, Emily always had a reason for not including me. First, it was her study groups. Then it was her important job. Then it was her boyfriend Michael, who wasn't used to big families. I always accepted it. I always understood. I always made myself smaller to fit her life. But now, looking back, I saw that I had been shrinking and shrinking, taking up less and less space, until I was so small she couldn't even see me at her own wedding. The Emily I raised, the one I loved more than life, the one I put first. She had become a stranger who only threw me scraps of her time when it was convenient for her. That Thursday afternoon, as I was putting old photos into a shoebox, I found one that made me break down. It was from Emily's confirmation. She was 8 years old. She was wearing a beautiful white dress that I had stayed up all night to sew by hand. In the picture, Emily is hugging me so tight, smiling with this pure, real happiness. I was smiling too, but I could see something in my eyes from back then that I'd lost. The belief that I was loved without conditions by my daughter. I remembered that day so clearly. I had saved for 6 months for that little party. I rented the church hall. I invited everyone. I made barbecue, potato salad, sweet tea, and a big carrot cake. Emily felt like a princess. She ran from table to table, introducing me to everyone as my mom, the best mom in the world. That night, when everyone had gone, she helped me clear the tables and said, "Mom, when I grow up and have my own parties, you're always going to be the most important person. Always." Tears just streamed down my face, holding that old photograph. What happened to that little girl? When did I become so unimportant that I didn't even deserve a phone call? I kept looking and found another one that hurt just as bad. Emily at 15, her sweet 16 party. We had rented a small banquet room. There was a DJ, food for 100 people. I had worked double shifts at the bakery for a whole year to give her that party. I baked in the morning, sewed in the afternoon, and took on extra cleaning jobs at night. All to see her happy. In that photo, Emily and I were dancing. She had asked the DJ to play our song, a little tune I used to sing to her when she was sick. "Mom, you always sang this to me, and it made me feel better," she had said. "I want to dance to it with you so everyone knows how much I love you." Those words, they sounded like they were from another life. How did I go from being the person she loved most to being someone she was ashamed of? I kept digging and found a letter Emily wrote me when she was 18, right before she left for college. It was on pink paper, in her careful handwriting. It said, "Dearest Mom, tomorrow I start my new life. But I want you to know that I couldn't have done any of this without you. You are my hero, my role model, the strongest woman I know. When I grow up, I want to be a mother just like you. Loving and kind and always putting family first. I love you with all my heart, and you will always be the most important person in my life. Your loving daughter, Emily." I read that letter 3 times. This was the same person who had just cut me out of the biggest day of her life. I sat on my bed with that letter shaking in my hands, and I just sobbed. I cried for the girl who wrote those words, and for the woman she had become. I cried for all the dreams I had of being the mother of the bride. I cried for the mother-daughter relationship I thought we had. That was apparently all in my head. After the sadness came the anger. A hot, burning anger I had never felt. How dare she? After everything I did for her? I had sacrificed my youth, my own chances at happiness, my own dreams, all for her. I had worked until my body ached so she could have the life I never had. And this is how she repaid me? With humiliation? But after the anger came something worse. Shame. I started to wonder if it was my fault. Had I been too available? Too simple? Too unrefined for Emily's new, fancy life? I remembered the look on Richard and Barbara Vance's faces when they met me. That look I couldn't place. Now I understood it. It was pity, discomfort. To them, I was the embarrassing mother-in-law from the bakery. I got up and looked in the mirror. There was Margaret Bishop, 68 years old, gray hair, hands rough from work, lines around my eyes from years of worry. I wasn't elegant like Barbara Vance. I didn't travel the world. I didn't know about fancy wine. I was just a simple woman who did the best she could. But did that make me worthless? Did that mean my own daughter could just throw me away? I couldn't sleep that night. I just replayed all the signs I missed. The family dinners she forgot, the phone calls that got shorter, the visits that had to be scheduled. I was being slowly, quietly pushed out of her life. On Friday morning, I decided to call my sister, Aunt Ginny, down in Charleston. I had to talk to someone. "She did what?" Ginny shouted into the phone when I told her. "She got married without telling you? That girl has lost her mind." I told her the whole story, from the first time I met Michael to finding the pictures on Facebook. Ginny just listened. "Margaret," she finally said, her voice serious. "I always told you, you gave that girl too much. You put her up on a pedestal. You spoiled her. And now you see what happens." Her words stung, but I knew she was right. I had always given in to Emily. I always put her first. I did it because I loved her. "So what do I do now?" I whispered. "Now," Ginny said, "you're going to do what you should have done 20 years ago. You're going to live for you. Emily made her choice. Now it's time for you to make yours." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time. She was right. Emily had shown me exactly where I fit in her new life. Nowhere. It was time for me to decide where she fit in mine. On Saturday morning, as I was having my tea, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't know, but I answered. "Mom, how are you?" It was Emily's voice, cheerful, like nothing had happened. "Guess what? We're back from the honeymoon. Tuscany was amazing. Michael and I want to come by this afternoon to tell you all about it." Tell me all about it? After 2 weeks of silence? Now she wanted to stop by, like a friend catching me up on her vacation. "What time?" I asked. "Around 4? We'll bring pictures and we got you some little gifts." As if a souvenir from Italy could fix this. "All right," I said. "I'll be here." After I hung up, I just stood there. Part of me was desperate to see her, to hug my daughter. But another part, a new part that was growing stronger, was just furious at how casual she was, how she just assumed I'd be waiting here for her, ready to forgive. I spent the day cleaning. I made sweet tea. I bought a fresh coffee cake from the bakery. It's what I always did when Emily was coming. But this time, as I was sweeping, I just thought, why? Why am I still trying so hard for someone who doesn't value me? At 4 o'clock on the dot, they arrived. Emily looked wonderful, tanned, wearing new clothes. Michael had that same polite, distant smile. "Mom!" Emily cried, hugging me like we hadn't seen each other in weeks. "I missed you. Look at my tan." I hugged her back. She smelled like expensive perfume, not the simple lotion she used to wear. Everything about her was different. "Have a seat," I said. I served the tea and the coffee cake. "Oh, Mom, this looks great," Emily said, but she barely touched it. Probably didn't eat bakery cake anymore. "So," I said, sitting across from them, "tell me about the wedding." Emily shot a quick look at Michael. "It was lovely, Mom. Very simple, just what we wanted." "And where was it?" I asked, even though my heart was sinking. "At a beautiful little vineyard just outside the city. Very private. Just us and Michael's parents as witnesses." Just them and Michael's parents, as if 28 years of raising her meant nothing. "And why didn't you tell me?" I finally asked. My voice was trembling. Emily sighed, putting on that little girl face she used when she was caught. "Mom, it all happened so fast. You know how things get. The date just opened up, and we decided to just do it. Not make a big fuss. Besides, you know I never liked big parties." It was a lie. Emily loved big parties. Her sweet 16, her graduation, they were all big. But now for her wedding, she wanted something intimate that didn't include me. But Mom, she continued, her voice all sweet, that's why we're here, to celebrate with you. Look at the gifts we brought. She pulled out a bag with cheap souvenirs, a little bottle of olive oil, some hard candies, a refrigerator magnet, things they bought at the airport. Thank you, dear, I said. Each little gift felt like a slap. We spent an hour talking about their trip, the food, the museums. It was like watching a travel show about strangers. I nodded, I smiled, I asked the right questions. But inside, I felt something breaking for good. When they left, with vague promises to see me soon, I was left alone in my living room with the cheap magnet and the silence. That night, as I put the olive oil in the back of my cabinet, I made a decision. If Emily could live her life without including me, then I could learn to live my life without including her. And in that quiet early morning, with my heart hurting but a new feeling growing, I started to plan the first step of my new life. A life where I was the main character, not just the supporting role in someone else's story. The Margaret who had waited her whole life for her daughter's approval died that night. The one who woke up the next day? She was someone else entirely. A woman who finally understood that you have to teach people how to treat you. And sometimes, the greatest love a mother can show is love for her own dignity. Sunday morning was bright and clear, which felt like a joke compared to the storm inside me. I got up at 5 a.m., but for the first time in weeks, that heavy weight wasn't on my chest. In its place, there was just a cold, quiet clarity. It was like I had passed through a fire in the night and come out new. I made my coffee, extra strong. I sat down at my kitchen table. The table where I had waited for so many phone calls from Emily that never came, where I had planned so many special meals for visits she canceled. But this morning, that table wasn't about waiting. It was about planning. I took out an old notebook, one I used to use to track Emily's school events. Now I was going to use it for something else. My exit. On the first page I wrote, Independence Plan, Margaret Bishop, August 12, 2024. The first thing I wrote was, check resources. All those years of working 2 jobs, I had managed to save. I wasn't rich, not by a long shot, but I wasn't poor. I had my savings, my small apartment, which was fully paid off, and something Emily never knew about, a secret bank account. I'd been putting extra money in it for years, ever since she turned 18. It was supposed to be my wedding gift to her. Every dollar I put in, I imagined her face when I gave it to her. This is for a down payment on your first house, honey, so you can start your life without worrying. For 10 years, I'd fed that account with that dream. But now, after being shut out of her wedding, that money was going to have a new purpose. The second point on my list was new home. I couldn't stay here. Every corner of this apartment screamed her name. I needed a new place, a place that was just mine. I remembered my neighbor, Mrs. Eileen, had a sister who moved into a senior community over in Matthews. It's wonderful, Margaret, she'd told me. They have activities, security. Her sister says she's never been happier. At the time, I thought those places were for people who had no family. Now, I realized they were for people who had decided to be their own family. The third point was the hardest. Cut ties slowly. I couldn't just vanish. That would just make me look like the crazy one. Oh, my mom just disappeared. She was always so dramatic. No, my exit had to be quiet, dignified, final. After breakfast, I got dressed in my Sunday best, but I wasn't going to church. I was going to start my new life. I put my notebook in my purse and walked out that door. My first stop was the bank. It felt strange, walking through my neighborhood, knowing I was leaving it. Mr. Henderson, my banker for 10 years, was surprised to see me. Good morning, Mrs. Bishop, he said. Everything all right? Everything is perfect, Mr. Henderson, I replied, and I was surprised to find I meant it. I'm just reviewing my financial options. Of course, he said. I'm free on Monday if you'd like to go over your accounts. I'll see you Monday, I said. That little conversation gave me a boost. For the first time, someone was talking to me like a person making decisions, not just Emily's mom. From there, I took the bus to Matthews, to the community Mrs. Eileen's sister lived in. It was called Willow Creek Gardens. As soon as I got there, I saw why she liked it. It was beautiful, clean, with flower gardens everywhere, and just peaceful. The receptionist, a kind woman named Susan, smiled when I told her I was interested. "I'm so glad you came," she said. "We actually have a lovely one-bedroom apartment that just became available. Would you like a tour?" For the next hour, Susan showed me everything. The apartments were small, but perfect. A little living room, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a tiny kitchen. But the best part was the balcony, overlooking the gardens. I could just picture myself sitting out there with my coffee. "We have so many activities," Susan explained. "Mondays we have a gardening club, Tuesdays are for bridge, Wednesdays we have movie nights, Thursdays are dance classes, and on weekends we organize little trips to the mountains, to the coast." Every single thing she mentioned sounded fun, things I'd never done because I was always waiting on Emily. "What are the requirements?" I asked. Susan explained. "Over 60, check. A stable income to cover the monthly fee, I had my savings and my pension, and a basic health check. The cost was reasonable, it covered everything." "How long does the process take?" I asked. "If you bring your documents this week, we could have you moved in within 2 weeks," she said. "Were you interested in that apartment?" I looked at that balcony again, and in that moment, I made a decision so fast it surprised me. "I'll take it," I said. "The one with the balcony." "Excellent choice," Susan beamed. She handed me a folder with all the paperwork. I went home that afternoon with a feeling I hadn't had in I don't know how long. Hope. Not hope that Emily would change, but hope for a new life. My life. That night, I organized my documents, bank statements, my deed, my ID. On Monday morning, I was at the bank at 9 a.m. Mr. Henderson greeted me. When I explained I needed to make a large transfer for a personal investment, I saw a new respect in his eyes. "Mrs. Bishop, I'm delighted," he said, looking at my accounts. "You've been incredibly disciplined with your savings. You have a very solid foundation." Hearing him say that, it made me feel strong. For so long, I thought of myself as just a bakery worker. But I had worked hard. I had saved. I had built this, all by myself. "I also want to know about safe investments," I said, "something that gives me a monthly income." For the next hour, he explained options. I had never thought about making my money work for me. It was always for Emily. From the bank, I went to see a lawyer, Mr. Doyle. I needed to update my will. "Mrs. Bishop, what can I do for you?" he asked. "I need to update my will and organize my assets," I said, plain and simple. We went over everything, my apartment, my bank accounts. "Any specific changes to the will?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I want to leave 50% of my assets to a local charity for single working mothers, the other 50% to my daughter, but with one condition." "What's that?" "She can only receive the inheritance after she writes a letter explaining why she made the decision she made about our relationship. She doesn't have to apologize. She just has to be honest. That letter has to be delivered to you, Mr. Doyle, even if I'm not here to read it." Mr. Doyle wrote it all down. "That's a very thoughtful condition, Mrs. Bishop. It gives her a chance for reflection." "Exactly," I said. "I'm not looking for revenge. I'm looking for her to understand that actions have consequences." When I left his office, I felt 10 feet tall. I had taken control of my money, my future, and my relationship with my daughter, even after I was gone. The next few days were a blur. I hired movers. I started packing. I decided to keep only what I truly loved. Clothes, my photos, my little treasures. Everything else, I'd donate. The hardest part was Emily's old room, her school trophies, her books. I packed it all into boxes, rented a small storage unit near her apartment, and put them there. If she wanted them, she could get them. During that week, Emily called twice. The conversations were polite, distant. She talked about her new apartment, dinners with the Vances. I listened. I asked simple questions. but I didn't say a word about my plans. "Is everything okay, Mom?" she asked on the second call. "You sound different." "Everything's perfect, dear," I said, and it was the truth. "Just doing some organizing." "Do you need help?" The question, which would have made me cry with joy a month ago, now just made me sad. She still saw me as someone who needed her. "No, thank you, honey. I have it all under control." On Friday, Susan from Willow Creek Gardens called. My application was approved. I could move in on Monday. That night, alone in my apartment, surrounded by boxes, I didn't feel sad. I felt excited. On Saturday morning, as I had my last coffee at my little kitchen table, my phone rang. It was Emily. "Mom, Michael and I want to have you over for dinner tomorrow night to finally show you our new apartment." It was the invitation I had been waiting for months, but it was too late. "Oh, honey, that's a shame," I said, my voice calm. "I already have plans for tomorrow." "Plans? With who?" "With some new friends. We're taking a little day trip." It was true. The residents at Willow Creek had a Sunday trip planned, and I had already signed up. "But Mom, we can change it. It's important to us." "Thank you, dear, but I'm already committed. Maybe another time when my schedule clears up." There was a long silence. Emily was not used to me having a schedule. "Well, okay. We'll plan something else." "Of course, dear. You have a wonderful dinner." When I hung up, I just smiled. For the first time in my life, Emily had to work around my schedule. It was a small thing, but it felt huge. Margaret Bishop had her own life. On Sunday night, after a wonderful day trip where I met 3 lovely women who would be my new neighbors, I packed my last bag. The move was for Monday morning. That last night in the apartment where I raised Emily, I didn't cry. I just felt grateful. Grateful for the woman I had been, and excited for the woman I was becoming. Early Monday, as the movers loaded the truck, I looked at Emily's empty room one last time. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for teaching me that true love sometimes means walking away." The Margaret who walked out of that apartment was a new woman, a woman who knew her worth. As the truck drove toward Matthews, toward my new life, I sat in the front seat, smiling. For the first time in 68 years, I had no idea what was next. And that uncertainty, it felt like freedom. My first week at Willow Creek Gardens was like a dream. Every morning, I'd wake up in my new apartment, make my coffee in my little kitchen, and sit on my balcony. I already knew my neighbors. There was Mrs. Eileen, 72, who had been a teacher. Mr. Samuel, 75, a widower who loved to garden, and Mrs. Delia, 69, who had fascinating stories. It was so strange to be valued for just being me, not for being Emily's mom. At the community dinners, my new friends asked me about my life, my opinions. On Wednesday, I joined the gardening club with Mr. Samuel. While we were planting petunias, I realized I hadn't done anything just for fun in years. "You have a real green thumb, Margaret," Mr. Samuel said, smiling. It was a simple compliment, but it filled my heart. Thursday was my first dance class. Mr. Davis, a very charming 76-year-old, led the class. At first, I was so embarrassed. I hadn't danced in decades. "No one's judging here, Margaret," he said, taking my hand. "We're just here to have fun." And I did. I laughed harder than I had laughed in years. My classmates clapped when I got a step right. I felt like I was part of a real family, a family that had chosen me. That night, my phone rang. It was Emily. "Mom, where are you?" Her voice was high, frantic. "I went by the apartment and it's empty. The neighbors said you moved. What is going on?" For a second, my old instinct kicked in, to soothe her, to make it okay. But the new Margaret just took a calm breath. "I'm very well, Emily," I said. "I moved to a place more suitable for me." "More suitable? What does that mean? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it was my decision, dear. It didn't require your approval." A long, long silence. She was not used to this. "Where are you?" "I'm in a place where I'm happy, Emily." "Mom, you're scaring me. This isn't like you. Are you mad at me?" That question, it was always about her feelings. I'm not mad, Emily. I'm just living my life. What does that mean? It means I finally understand that I have a right to my own happiness, my own plans, without waiting for anyone's permission. Another silence. Can you just tell me where you are? Michael and I are worried. Michael and I. Always we. I'm at Willow Creek Gardens in Matthews, I finally told her. It's a residential community. A nursing home? The word stung. No, Emily. It's a place where I live independently, with people my own age. I have my own apartment, my own activities, my own social life. Social life? She sounded shocked, as if she couldn't imagine me having one. Yes, Emily. I have new friends. I have plans that don't involve waiting by the phone for you. The words were sharp, but they were true. Mom, we've always made time for you. Did you make time to include me in your wedding, Emily? The silence that followed was so heavy. It was the first time I'd said it out loud to her. Mom, I already told you. It all happened so fast. Emily, I interrupted, my voice firm but not angry. I'm not interested in excuses. It happened. I'm not looking for an apology. I just want you to understand that decisions have consequences. What consequences? The consequence is that I finally realized I'm not a priority in your life, so I've decided to make myself my priority. Does that mean you don't want to be my mom anymore? Her voice was small, like a child's. I will always be your mother, Emily, but I will no longer be the mother who waits for scraps of your time. I will no longer be the mother who accepts any treatment just to be near you. If you want a relationship with me, it will be a relationship of mutual respect. How? She whispered. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I know it can't be like it was. After I hung up, I sat on my balcony. It was the hardest conversation I'd ever had, but I had set boundaries. I had put my own dignity first. The next few days, I didn't hear from her, and for the first time, her silence didn't give me anxiety. I was too busy. I went on an excursion. I took a yoga class. On Sunday, after the community brunch, Susan from the front desk stopped me. Mrs. Bishop, you have visitors, a young couple. My heart beat a little faster. I found them in the lounge. Emily looked nervous. Michael just looked awkward. Mom, Emily said, standing up. Thank you for seeing us. Have a seat, I said, taking a chair across from them. How are you? We're fine. We wanted to see where you were living. Make sure you're comfortable. I looked around the beautiful, sunny room. As you can see, I said, smiling, I'm very comfortable. This place is perfect for me. Yes, it looks very nice, Michael said, looking around. Must be expensive. There it was. Not, are you happy, but how much does it cost? Fortunately, I can afford it without any problems, I said calmly. It turns out I worked and saved a lot more than you knew. I watched them exchange a look. They had clearly talked about this. Mom, we don't want you to run out of money, Emily said. Why would I run out of money, dear? Well, you always told us you had to watch every penny. That's true, I said. I did, because I was saving it. For you, for your emergencies, for your future. Now that it's clear you're independent and don't need my help, I can finally use my money for my happiness. What do you mean we don't need your help? Michael asked. I mean, you are two successful adults, capable of making your own decisions without me, like getting married. If you're independent enough for that, you're independent enough to not need my savings. The silence was awful. They were realizing they couldn't have it both ways. They couldn't cut me out and still count on my safety net. Mom, Emily said, her voice soft. Are you very angry with me? I'm not angry, Emily, I said honestly. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. But mostly, I'm at peace. At peace with finally knowing who I am, besides just being your mother. At peace with knowing I can be happy, without your approval. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Does that mean you don't love me anymore? I love you more than you know, Emily. But I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean you let them disrespect you. I've learned that real love has boundaries. What can we do to fix this? Michael asked. There's nothing to fix, I said. I'm not broken. I'm simply living the life I deserve. Can we still be family? Emily asked. We will always be family, I said. But it will be a different kind of family. One where we respect each other as adults. How do we do that? She whispered. You know how to treat me with respect, Emily, I said, looking right at her. You did it for many years when you were little. You just have to remember how. Can we call you? Of course you can call me, I said, but I won't always be available. I have my own life now, my gardening club, my dance classes. I have commitments. When they left, I sat in that lounge for a long time. There was no big, tearful reunion, but there was something better. Recognition. For the first time, Emily realized she had to make an effort if she wanted me in her life. That night, at dinner, my new friends asked about my visitors. Everything okay, Margaret? Mrs. Eileen asked. Everything, I said, smiling, is exactly as it should be. I didn't know if Emily and I would ever be close again, but I knew that I had changed, and no matter what, I was going to be fine. The Margaret who waited by the phone was gone forever. In her place was a woman who knew her worth, and that was worth everything. Today, 6 months later, I wake up every morning in my apartment. I water my plants on the balcony. I read books. I go to my clubs. I am simply Margaret Bishop, a 68-year-old woman who is finally living for herself. Sometimes I get calls from blocked numbers. I hear Emily's voice on my voicemail, crying, apologizing, promising to change. But some hurts are too deep. Some choices are too final. She had her chance to include me, and she chose not to. Now I choose me. My days are full. Dance classes with Mr. Davis, long talks with Mrs. Eileen. At dinner, my friends listen to my stories. Yesterday, a woman at the store recognized me. She said Emily was offering a reward just to know where I was. I just smiled and said that sometimes people find you when they're ready to find you. I don't feel anger. I don't feel hate. I just feel peace. Emily learned, the hard way, that mothers are people too, that love has limits, and that some doors, once you close them, don't open again. Last week, I got a formal letter. From a lawyer. It was from Emily. Typed. No emotion. In it, she explained her reasons for excluding me. She said it was a practical decision. That the Vances had insisted on something small, and she didn't want to create conflict with her new in-laws. I read it 3 times. A practical decision. She turned the deepest pain of my life into a scheduling problem. There was no understanding of my sacrifice. No gratitude. That letter confirmed it. The Emily I raised, she's gone. In her place is a woman who sees me as an obligation to be managed. I put the letter in a box. A mother's love doesn't end. It just changes. My love for Emily has transformed. It's respect for my own dignity now. Care for my own happiness. This morning, as I watch the sunrise from my balcony, I think of all the women who, like me, spent their lives waiting to be valued. To all of them, I want to say what I know now. It is never, ever too late to choose your own happiness. It is never too late to set boundaries. The freedom I feel. It didn't come from punishing Emily. It came from freeing myself. It didn't come from revenge. It came from self-respect. Last night, Mrs. Eileen asked me if I ever regret my choice. Don't you miss your daughter? She asked. I miss the daughter I thought I had, I told her. But I don't miss the relationship we actually had. Because that relationship, it was slowly killing me. And that is the most honest truth I've ever spoken. Today I write this from my balcony, with the sound of the garden fountain and the certainty that I am on the right path. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know my happiness will never again depend on someone else's invitation. And in that quiet, Clara May Harrison finally found her peace. Did you enjoy this story? I'd be so grateful to know what city you're listening from. Let's meet in the comments. Your support means the world and helps me keep bringing these stories every day. If you'd like to hear another story that will surprise you, please click one of the videos you see on the screen now. And please don't forget to follow and click that little bell so you don't miss tomorrow's story. I'll be right here waiting for you. Thank you for listening.